Hi, welcome to Live at Noon. This is Dee Dee Jones with Innovative Financial, and what am I brandishing you here? Offset spatulas. Today's topic are offsets to your Social Security income. Today, and specifically, we're going to be talking about the windfall elimination provision, the WEP, and it's one form of offset to your Social Security that might affect your Social Security. Part two is going to cover the government pension offset. So without further ado, let's talk about what the WEP is. So the WEP was designed to achieve some fairness, and I'm going to leave the debate on whether or not this is fair for people who like to debate these kinds of things. I simply say, here's the rules. When you have a career that's partially in the government sector and partially in a pension that isn't covered by Social Security, and I didn't say that very clearly, if you've got Social Security and a non-Social Security pension, a certain unfairness can be created, and that is under Social Security, if you have many, many years of low earning income, and it averages out pretty low, your replacement rate is relatively higher than someone who has the same number of years of work, but a higher income. So the first chunk is 90% replacement, second chunk's less, and the third chunk's less than that. So the idea of the WEP is to say, look, you're already getting this benefit of Social Security, we're not going to take it away from you, but because you have these other years of earnings, you're getting too much of that 90% replacement rate. And that's the idea behind it. We'll leave it at that. So let's talk about whether or not the WEP is going to apply to you. Here in Denver, we have a lot of folks covered under the PARA system, and it's a classic example of a pension where you pay into that pension but not Social Security. So basically, if you do work for federal, state, or local government, a nonprofit organization, even in another country, and you did not pay Social Security taxes during the time you were there, you were paying into this other pension plan, the pension you receive can affect the amount of your Social Security benefits. And that's where WEP comes in. You can go to the website at Social Security and run through all of the calculations. But let's talk about, is it going to affect you? So the first question is, did you have one of those pensions? And if it's no, done. Our work here is finished. You're not going to be subject to the WEP. Now, if you did have one of these pensions, we have a few more questions to answer. If you have one of these non-covered pensions and you don't have any Social Security, then again, WEP isn't going to apply to you. Say it's PARA. Say all of your working years were with PARA, then good. You'll get PARA. You weren't going to get Social Security anyway, so really nothing to worry about. And then there's some folks under the federal program known as FERS. If you're a federal worker in the FERS retirement system or an employee of a nonprofit organization and you were first hired after 1983, then you're not going to be subject to it. But if you were hired before that, so pretty probably already retired if that's the case, or getting very, very close, then you might be subject to this. And last is your only pension from Railroad, because that's another parallel retirement plan. If that's the case, again, no WEP for you. So there's four or five situations where WEP will not come into play. But in all those other situations where your answer was no, now we need to figure out how big is this effect going to be. So for calculating the WEP, the Social Security uses something they abbreviate as ELY, which is year of eligibility. ELY, I have no idea. But if you run into ELY, that's what it's standing for. And for most people, it's age 62, or they also look at the year you become totally disabled. Really critical. By that age 62, have you acquired 30 or more years of substantial earnings, an inflation adjusted figure? And this one, obviously, you're going to have to go back and look at all your years of earnings and figure out which ones qualify as substantial. And by going back, the easiest way to do that is to log into SSA.gov. I did say easy. I'm not sure that this is really easy. But if you log into SSA.gov and request your Social Security report, we all know this. It's got the green stripe across the top. On page 3 or 4, there's a list of your earnings by year. On the Social Security website, if you search for the phrase substantial earnings, they'll tell you each year what the substantial earnings rate is. Just compare the two. If you have 30 or more years of substantial earnings, guess what? WEP isn't going to apply to you. We deal with a lot of folks who are really getting close to that 30 years where they had some para, but they also have Social Security. And if you're within the last couple of years and you're interested in staying employed or being employed, getting a couple more years of substantial earnings in a Social Security covered job can eliminate that WEP. And so that's kind of nice. I know people who've done that. It's as simple. If you just want to go be a barista, that totally works. All right. So if you have yet another no answer, here we go. Buckle in. It gets a little more interesting. There's a phase out period. Less than 20 years, we go one way. Between 20 and 29 years of substantial earnings, we're going to go another. So if you have less than 20 years, then you're going to have your Social Security reduced by the lesser of, oh, I love these weasel phrases, the lesser of $480 a month or half of that non-covered pension. Non-covered pension is what Social Security calls those alternative pension plans, be it railroad or para, any number of retirement plans. So let's say that again. If you have 20 years or less of substantial earnings years under Social Security, your monthly benefit for Social Security will be reduced by the lesser of $480 a month or half of your pension. Say you have less than 20 years in Social Security and your para pension is $1,000 a month, your Social Security will be reduced by $480 because half the para pension would be $500 and it's the lesser of the $480 or half the pension, in this case $480. Let's say your para pension's only $500. The reduction would only be $250 because it's half the $500, which is the lesser of the $480 or half the pension. Okay, so that's kind of easy. Now, in that phase out, just like every phase out in the tax code and wherever you find phase outs, there's going to be a chart somewhere. I'm not going to walk you through the whole chart, but just know that it's going to depend on the year you become eligible for benefits. So in most people's cases, it's going to be age 62. And that at that point, how many years of Social Security substantial earning years do you have? So this chart is on the Social Security website. If you've made it all the way through here and kept answering the yeses and the nos and it's landed you in this bucket, it's really worth your time to say, all right, I'm going to only have 25 years of substantial earnings in Social Security, and I've got $1,500 coming in from para or some other non-covered pension. What will that do to my Social Security benefit? And you can find the year down the left and years across the top and the amount of pension, and it will tell you by month how many dollars. And so it can make anywhere from $480 on the very, very low end to about $20 a month at the very, very smallest end. So a big range in there. And just to remind you, this calculation is done before they take a look at credits for delaying filing or any other credits. And this has nothing to do with survivorship credits. This is just the situation where you, the wage earner, have two pensions that are going to interact with one another. So it's complicated, I know. As always, we've got a copy of the flow chart so you can walk through and see where you fall into this very interesting part of the financial world. It's important to know if windfall elimination provision is going to affect you and significantly or not so significantly change your planned retirement income. If you've got questions, let me know. If you'd like the flow chart, we always have those available. And on Wednesday, we're going to do part 2 of this because there's another kind of offset called a government pension offset. So it's the week of offsets. Thanks for joining us. See you soon. Have a great day.